Hello, welcome to Jewish Culture and Jewish Awareness. My name is Dustin Hausner. I'm the Jewish Outreach and Program Director at the Wayne YMCA. All our Jewish programs is funded through the Jewish Federation of Northern New Jersey. So today I'm really happy to have a returning guest whose works I particularly enjoy and think are really interesting. And if you haven't read any of the work, I really hope this video convinces you to go out and buy some of the amazing publications by Jewish Food Hero, all these amazing cookbooks, plant-based, Jewish. But I could be here a while saying how much I enjoy the work. I am very fortunate through Zoom to have a wonderful guest today, the mastermind behind Jewish Food Hero, Kenden. Kenden, it is so great to have you with us today.
Thank you for having me again.
No, it's a great pleasure. So I'm here because while you have quite a few amazing books, you actually just published your newest book, which I'm going to show right here, Beyond Chopped Liver. 59 Jewish recipes, get a vegan health makeover. So I want to ask you, besides the title, which I love, but what made you decide to not only do a new book, but do it in this way? Why specifically 59 new vegan health makeover recipes of Jewish food?
So I'm just opening something so I can read it because that's my style. But when I did this book, I was thinking to myself, gosh, why didn't I do this first? This is what I should have done since the beginning. But I really feel like the shift was about, how do I say this? Oh, I can't see you anymore. Oh, the shift was about like, why am I looking for something new? We have all of these recipes behind us. I should focus on trying to remake some of the recipes that we're really attached to available in a new plant-based format rather than trying to seek to change our association for what food we would eat at certain holidays or what food we're attached to.
So I'm curious with this book, and you've done this with other books, but one of the things I love is that you get recipes from other people who have converted, to healthy Jewish food. So I'm curious, why was it and has it been so important for your work to get the recipes from others and to make sure that they get credit for the recipes?
Oh, you mean on the blog, the community recipe thing?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's different than the book, but when the pandemic started, this happened actually pretty organically, but in Feeding Women in the Bible, there's a woman called Joan that shared a challah recipe for Ruth, her challah recipe. And what happened is we had become friends through Jewish Food Hero. And somehow I found out that she had made this challah recipe, a vegan challah recipe that she said was so good that they had done like a blind taste test in her house and da da da. And I was really excited about that recipe and wanted to share it on Jewish Food Hero. And it really dawned on me that my experience with Jewish Food Hero is about making a lot of friends and also being really, really admiring what everybody else is creating. And for me, I'm not really so interested I'm more interested in Jewish Food Hero than myself as being this engine behind it. And so it really made sense to start to invite people and showcase other people's vegan recipes on the blog. And I really love reading that kind of stuff. I love reading food stories and I love reading about seeing people's faces beside their food. It feels like really happy.
So let me ask you, because
what do you think? What do you think about it?
No, I think it's magnificent. I love the fact that Jewish Food Hero has kind of become almost an epicenter for people to share, like through the blogs, to share their recipes, their stories, their experiences. And each of these books, I learn new things, which is fantastic.
Oh, that's nice.
And but also the thing is, it feels so Jewish. That's what I love about it. Because to me, and we've talked about this in our last interview, when most people think of Jewish food, they think of like the deli, the roast beef, the pastrami, like they think of all these very like meaty, fishy foods. But yet, when I read your books, it always feels Jewish. It always feels like home, even though the recipes are very different in certain ways. Are such smooth transitions. Like I feel like there's slight flavor differences, but it's really not that extreme. Like you wouldn't really notice the difference. So I love that you do this. I think it's amazing.
Nice.
I'm really honored that I gotten able to get a copy of the book, which is really fantastic. I want to ask you, because I'm sure you're inundated by recipes, because, even though there are Jewish vegan vegetarian groups, that's still fairly small when it comes to like platforms. I'll phrase it that way. So how do you decide which recipes make it into your cookbooks?
So this question, I'm just going to be really honest. Like every day since I handed in that manuscript, I've been like, oh, I missed that one. I really should have done that one. So I feel like I was really focused. I'm going to read you this on this idea of basically taking some core Jewish recipes and giving them a modern health upgrade without dairy and meat, and that they would be inspired from Jewish pre-modern diaspora communities. Mm-hmm. So like Ashkenazi, Sephardi, Mizrahi, Beta Israel, Ethiopian, and Indian Jewish communities. So I had that basic framework for the recipes that I was looking for to try to create a holistic view of like this beyond chopped liver thing. But with that said, I have so many recipes that I wish I had been able to put in there, and I hope that I can do this idea again.
Well, like I said, next time you do another book, I certainly will be looking for it on Amazon. Because again, it's wonderful because you go into detail about what is the kind of difference, the ingredients, the timing. It's a really good, especially for someone like me who is not extremely good at cooking. It's incredibly easy guide. So I do find it incredibly helpful for my household. But let me ask you, with Passover coming up, do you have foods or recipes you would like to share with us? Any ones that you would recommend?
Okay, so my first just like soapbox moment would be like just to really focus on potatoes and sweet potatoes as your friends during the holiday. Mm-hmm. And on the blog, there are 3 recipes that are for desserts that I think would be great to integrate. And those are the fudgy flourless chocolate cake that's in the Beyond Chopped Liver cookbook. There's a grain-free chocolate chip cookie that has an option for to put bean puree or sweet potato, depending on how you observe the holiday. And then there's also a Passover apple cake.
So I unfortunately, I'm trying to run Ricksufer, but I'll show you just very quickly for anyone who
That's the cake.
It looks so good. And I remember, I think you actually posted this image at one point. And
yeah.
How amazing this looks. And this is all plant-based. It's all good for, well, quote unquote, it's dessert. So as much as
it's dessert. And in that book too, if you could, I actually don't have a copy of the book yet. I'm going to order mine. But in that book, there's also a golden potato soup, which is
no, go ahead.
A really great recipe for Passover.
So one of my favorites, and I'll just show the image very briefly because again, I don't want to give it away. I want people to actually go out and get it.
Yeah.
For me, one of my favorites is the butter bean coconut curry.
Oh, I love that one too.
It looks so good.
It's so satisfying to eat because it's so tasty, and those beans. That recipe too was Leah Koenig published a recipe about a chicken recipe in the foreword. Mm-hmm. And so I took the spice profile that she created for that Indian Jewish recipe, and I applied it to that bean coconut curry.
I love it. I love that you saw that, you modified it in a way that makes sense. And again, it's one of those weird things that I think it's a very old joke, the idea of, Jews and lack of flavor in our food. But I feel like
that's not true.
But that exactly, like there's so many spices, and I think there's a bit of almost an Americanized version of it, the idea of the blend, where there's so many Jewish foods all around the world, and you do a fantastic job of illustrating a lot of it, which I think is fantastic.
Thank you.
Let me ask, because, and this is a little repetitive, but I do want to ask.
Life's a little repetitive, isn't it?
Touche on that one. But have you found your plant-based approach to Jewish food has been widely accepted as Jewish authentic, or do you get kind of pushback from the book? I mean, obviously the people who are looking for this are going to be supportive, but for people who like look at it who aren't necessarily Jewish and plant-based, do they think it's, authentic? Do they feel it's kind of like, you're pulling the wool over, excuse the expression, but like how's been the response in that regard?
So I think that I can't really truthfully answer this because of the whole online experience. I don't know if I have I don't know if I have a real regular feedback like that would let me know. But I will say that, like, I wonder if, like, Jewish Food Hero, the work is niched, is really niched as separate than like other Jewish food. But I can't answer that. What do you think?
No, I think that's a very honest question. It's funny because I've tried showing your books to friends and relatives who aren't plant-based, and I have friends of mine. I have the people who are very into organic or say they're very organic who love it, who like see it and it's like a gold mine to them, and others who look at it and it's like, okay, this is Jewish. I see what you're doing here, but you know they're so used to eating like meat or fish or things like that that for them it's almost like a disconnect with that. So
Yeah.
but I do want to ask.
And I can appreciate that. There's this recipe in there. I don't know if you can turn to it. It's called the mock whitefish salad.
Okay, let me see if I can.
And I had this experience. I was in Hong Kong for Yom Kippur, and we broke the fast with this family. And the woman, she had prepared whitefish salad, and the joy that people had to eat this and talk about it. It was like, I was really struck by that. And that's why I made the salad, because I wanted to give people like a connection with that, with how nostalgic some of the food is that's based on fish or meat or dairy products, because it's real. Like, nostalgia is real.
No, and I think what people miss sometimes is, yes, sometimes there's obviously meaty flavors, but sometimes it's really the spices and the condiments,
Yes.
all the things that
Yes.
that are the real nostalgia factor over the actual like fish or meat. It's actually those other things that you think are like just the small part of the meal where actually they make the dish. So
Yes.
but so let me ask, and again, this is also had this question, but I think it's an important one, especially if you who are watching have not had a chance to watch our previous interview, which I highly recommend. It was a really good interview. I was freezing in a sukkah, but it was a really interesting interview. For you, what is Jewish food? I know that's a very broad question, but
Oh goodness, you should open the book and you can read it. What I said, open the book, because I don't have the book yet.
so I won't read it because I'll leave people guessing so that they can read it themselves.
Okay.
But that's true.
I say it's hard to define, but there's certain enduring or defining characteristics, and then I go through that, and then I talk about the role of all the movement that the Jewish community has done. So, but I also think that's a very fascinating question.
Yeah, it kind of goes into what we were just talking about with people discovering the spices all around the world. I feel like Judaism depends on where you are in the world and what their traditions are and things like that.
Yes.
So I'll ask the obvious question. Since you said you have so many other recipes, what are future projects we should be looking up? I know this book literally just came out, but do you have other things you're looking on or considering working on at the moment?
So right now I'm working on this book called Feeding Women in the Talmud, Feeding Ourselves, which is a companion book to Feeding Women in the Bible, Feeding Ourselves, which published in 2020. And this book is totally enthralling. It's taking almost 70 female stories from the Talmud, and I have female rabbis, learned Jewish females, and thought leaders writing these stories, and then for each story there's a recipe that's a plant-based or vegan recipe that's created for that story. So this book is hopefully going to be coming out in 2022.
Very nice.
And then I hope that I can do another. After that, I have a few ideas, but I need to verify them first to see if anybody bites. Pun intended.
Very, very cute. And I will say, and when our last video, I mentioned it, and I want to say that I followed through with this. I did purchase the book about women in the Bible that you did and give it to my sister, who's a gluten this plant-based, and she really found it interesting. And what I like about it is, it's almost like a weird question. They don't necessarily talk about the dietary food that, these different women, and even just the lack of focus in a lot of times of the women involved in the Bible, but I think you did a wonderful job in kind of giving the blurb of who the person was, why
Yes.
next with them, and they were really interesting recipes, which, I mean, all of them are, but, I love that you took something that's like Jewish food with plant-based, and you have found ways of reintroducing the concept in a way that each book is different. It's not just a repetitive, Jewish Food Hero Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3. Like there's an organic change and evolution where each book has its own uniqueness, which I think is really interesting.
Thank you. I think it's just finding a way to make it relevant to our community, and the way I think it's relevant is through our text and through the things that already exist.
So I'm going to ask one final quick question for you. Well, two very quick ones. One, where can people find this as well as your other books for those who are interested in looking for it or purchasing it themselves? And what would be your not tagline, but why would you encourage people to go out and buy this book?
So you can find these books on Amazon and the Book Depository if you're outside of the United States. One second, let me take a glass of water while I think about your next question.
Sure, of course.
I think that the thing is these books, first of all, you'll learn about Jewish food, different Jewish recipes, which is interesting. And the second thing is it really will allow you to add more plant-based or vegan food on your table that will be meaningful for you and that people will enjoy. It's very, it's meaningful and people will enjoy the food.
Fantastic. Well, Ken, I want to thank you so much, obviously, for all the work you do with Jewish Food Hero. Congratulations on your newest publication. I look forward to your future publications. And for those watching out there, I want you to stay safe and stay healthy. Kenden, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I really always enjoy talking with you, Dustin.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.